Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Borderline. No coughing this time.
Yeah, I tried to hold on. I was holding on.
Just a nice, clean open.
Mhm.
Welcome into episode 97 of Borderline as we motor on towards number 100.
Let's go.
And appreciate you all tuning in this week, as always. You know, we mentioned this, you and I, behind the scenes often. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll talk to Trey about it in our next contract. But I mean, we I'm telling you, we could probably do this pretty much every day. Now, whether or not everyone would listen every day, I don't know, but we could pretty much.
I don't know if we could do it. I don't know if we could include as much cornhole every day, but we could definitely do an hour show or 50-minute show every day.
Yeah, maybe it's just something you and I do on the side, because we could definitely do this every day. Just pop on for an hour, give our thoughts, and then
pay attention to us, world. We're solving problems here.
Right. Or creating them, one of the two. So, hey, I had so much fun with you this week hosting ACL Live. Unfortunately, due to circumstances on the technical side that were not my fault, by the way.
I know.
Not my fault. You saw the proof. It was not my fault. I did what I was supposed to do. Actually, I don't think it was anything on the ACL side. Because I did see an announcement that apparently Facebook has had some issues integrating, I think, with StreamYard and some of the other podcast platforms. So it might have been something on Facebook side. But anyway, due to some unforeseen technical issues, ACL Live was live. The ACL Digital Network did not make it onto Facebook, but that's okay, because we had some awesome content, and you and I just figured that we would maybe just revisit some of the things that we talked about on ACL Live. Because what happened on ACL Live was, I mean, I had all these things I wanted to talk about on Borderline this week, right? I mean, you saw me on Monday night. I was fired up. I was ready to go. But the problem on Monday night was I blew all of my material, right? So I had nothing for Borderline. But then, found out that we had issues that night on Facebook. So now,
dude,
now we can do it all again.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there on a call Tuesday morning at like 9. And at the end of the call, I'm like, hey, what'd you guys think of Jeff and I last night? Since it was kind of not last minute, but fairly last minute. And they're like, what? Yeah, I thought you guys canceled it. I couldn't find it. It wasn't on Facebook. And I was like, so Trey starts laughing. He's on the call too. And he's like, did you guys, I was sitting there for I didn't know it actually was on the digital network until you told me a little bit later in the day that it actually made it to the digital network. So I was thinking to myself that we just sat there from 8 to 9 o'clock at night, just talking to each other about all this stuff. Right. Just the two of us. Yeah. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, so I'm glad that because the next day I didn't know that until you told me that maybe it wasn't on. So I text Trey right away, and I said, listen, I used the link you sent. I hit go live, and he said, don't worry, it wasn't your fault. It was something with Facebook or whatever, but it was on the digital network. So I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. But isn't that weird that no one watches the digital network? We've got to find a way to get people over there. I mean, I would say 90% of the ACL Live crowd is on Facebook. Isn't that weird?
I think that's fairly. It'd be nice to have more people watch it, obviously, but I don't know if that. I mean, other than live sports, I mean, we all know this now, right?
True.
Other than live sports, it's hard to get anyone to watch anything. Everything is streamed. I don't think there's one TV show anymore. Live sports, obviously, we watch all the time. I don't think there's one TV show that Kathy and I watch that we don't either watch through a live streaming service, or it's or we just pre-record it on our Comcast box.
Right. So, yeah. So if it's not Netflix or Amazon Prime or one of those streaming, that you actually go on to. Yeah, you actually go on to cable. That's a good point. I don't think I do watch a show that's on cable or or linear network, as it's called in the biz.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, we like Chicago PD and Blue Bloods. Every once in a while, something like that will pop up live that we'll watch. I'm a huge Star Wars freak. So every once in a while, Star Wars will be on live. All
right, we're talking about that because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, and I love the fact that TNT.
Wait a second.
You didn't know that, dude? Huge nerd.
How did we not know this about each other,
dude? I can't hit. So did you watch Ahsoka?
No, I have not seen it.
Come on, man! It's great. Andor's the best thing that Star Wars has ever put out. By the way, if you get a chance to go back and watch that. Anyway, every time there's major sports on, and TNT or Turner doesn't have it, it's Star Wars all day. Have you ever noticed that? It's like, what can we do to compete with the sports? We're just going to throw all 9 movies back to back to back to back. Yeah, Star Wars nerd.
Yeah,
Nerd. I've even watched some of the animated stuff on Disney since when they bought Star Wars from Lucasfilms.
So again, back to our point. Barring something like that we randomly stumble onto,
Yeah.
there is nothing that we watch that is not on a streaming service or that we record. And I think it's probably similar, like with all the shows that we do, like with our show. How many people actually watch it Thursday nights live? A few, but there's a ton of people who download it and listen to it during the week. You know, I mean, that's just the way
I've heard it's a big travel show.
It's just the way
for the folks that actually listen. They'll listen in the car when they're driving to an event or just wherever. You know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, they'll download it and listen to it, you know, on their own time, which is exactly what I do.
So if you're on the road, look up. All right, sorry.
All right, so we talked about a lot of different things on ACL Live, and I think we're gonna have to table some of these because we have a very special guest this week. And for those of you who did watch ACL Live, we teased it. We, as many people know, we've kind of pivoted away from guests because there are so many podcasts out there now that have guests.
Yeah. Yep.
So we figured, you know what, we'd just start throwing out some topics and giving our opinions, which has been a ton of fun.
And we both like to do that better anyway.
Yeah. And of course, we both like to talk. Yeah. But so this week, there was a certain someone who reached out to us, who wanted to come on the podcast, and since he owns it, we said yes.
Yeah. Did I tell you how that came about?
Yeah, he called you and said, "Put me on the damn show right now."
He's like, "I'm tired of you guys blasting me. I'm coming on the show to defend myself." I know, he's big baby.
Blast him. His name is on our check. We cannot blast him.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's we'll have to table some of the discussion for next week because we have so much to talk about with our special guest, who I'm sure you all know it is by now. All right. So I haven't done an open in a while, right? Everyone,
you love this, yeah.
I always had these opens, right? So our guest today is a native of the state of North Carolina. And was an incredibly gifted athlete and actually a state champion as a teenager. And despite an early childhood mistake of becoming best friends with Bernie Neighbors, which almost cost him everything,
I'm sure
he still went off to college, embarking on a successful collegiate career, earning his undergraduate degree from NC State and a master's degree in business at the University of South Carolina. But our guest journey was only beginning. Throughout our guest's adult life, Bernie Neighbors would return. And so did the continued hounding, pestering, and stalking, which at times made life almost impossible for our guest.
Sure.
But yet, he still rose to the top again and became an extremely determined entrepreneur with many successful startup companies. And then in the late 2000 teens, founded what would become one of the fastest growing sports leagues in the nation, the American Cornhole League. And now, almost a decade into his leadership of the worldwide governing body of professional cornhole, the latest data shows over 55 million people play the sport recreationally across the United States alone. Please welcome back to the show our friend and our boss. And we couldn't say no when he wanted to come on the show, Stacy Moore.
Hey, man, you forgot to include, I think he had a double major in 3 years, by the way, undergrad, didn't you?
Oh, my gosh. I'm sure there's a lot I don't know if everything I said was true or not. Was everything I said true?
It sounded good. I'm not sure whether it's
I think everything I said was true, even the part about Bernie.
Yeah, that was definitely true.
Especially the part about Bernie. Extra truth, if there is such a thing.
Hey, how you doing? I haven't had a chance to see you or really talk to you. We've texted a few times, but haven't had a chance to talk to you much since Rock Hill. Everything going good?
Everything is as crazy as ever, Jeff. But things are going well.
All right, so much to talk about, and like you and I were emailing today. Well, I was emailing. You didn't respond to me, but that's okay. so much.
More important people to talk to, Jeff.
I'm sure there are many. But no, I mean, so much to talk about, so we can riff on truly whatever you want. I mean, it's always great to have you on and kind of give kind of the state of the sport address. But I figured we start maybe with kind of a softball, and you and I were kind of talking about this in Rock Hill. The schedule, it seems like the first 6 opens are locked in until we get to Myrtle Beach. The Nationals, when I talked to you in Rock Hill, I know you guys are working on them, still up in the air, but any announcements on the schedule or any highlights coming up here for the 24 season?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, great to be here. Hard to believe that the season has already started. We have 2 opens in the books already. I would love to kind of come out and give them a State of the Union before the season started, but it came upon us so rapidly.
Yeah.
I missed that opportunity, but glad to have it now since you guys were slinging my name around when we made a bunch of new announcements and shifting some things around and that sort of thing. So not really here to defend myself, but to set the record straight and clear up any false assumptions that are out there about things that I think in terms of the state of the sport and where we're heading. So, but yeah, the schedule, we should be releasing more dates here soon. I'm really excited for these 8 kind of signature events. You know, the main change is the consolidation of our shootout format with our national format into 1 point series. And that has led to us scheduling 8, we call them tentpole events, or other sports call them tentpole events that they have throughout the year, where we'll be featuring our ACL Pro teams on CBS Sports Network, the Shootout Series on another network that will hopefully be named very soon, and the ACL Pro Series. So 8 amazing weekends for fans to come out and engage with us and celebrities and watch cornhole.
So all these will be under the same point system then, is what you're saying? So they're all going to be separate events, but all count.
The pro events, the shootout format and the national format are now under the are now under the same format. The shootout format traditionally didn't have points associated with it. Now that is a 8 event series that has points associated with it. So 4 of those events will be the play to 21 format. 4 of those events will be the shootout format, and the singles and doubles for shootouts will be co-ed.
How much of those will be on the same weekends? If it's 8 weeks and you've got 4 distinct weeks this way, like what all's going to be together? Does that question make any sense? Like, are you going to have teams and shootout together, or is it all going to be together for those 8 weeks?
So all those 8 weeks we'll play teams, we'll play shootout or play to 21 format for the pros, and we'll have a Super Hole event.
Oh, a Super Hole for all 8?
Super Hole for all 8. So
wow, okay.
And the big announcement around Super Hole is Super Hole will be current NFL player focused. So we have signed an agreement with Deion Dawkins to be an ambassador / co-commissioner for Super Hole, Super Hole format. And so we'll be featuring 2 NFL, or let me not say 2 NFL teams, but 2 players from distinct NFL teams will be battling head-to-head against each other in that Super Hole format. The championship of Super Hole will not be on Ocho Day this coming season. It'll be at a different time and location. But on Ocho Day, we will still do a celebrity event where we would be able to hopefully invite Shamar Moore back so he can steal the show once again.
Yeah, he can do that.
He's winning still, I'm sure.
He can do that. Yeah, he's successful.
Sipping and winning.
He's handsome, and he can play some cornhole. So, yeah, he can do that. All right, so these weekends, then, these 8 weekends, to Bernie's point, are going to be huge.
They're going to be massive.
So shootout and teams together at the same time, and Super Bowl, all 3 on those weekends. And then some of those weekends will also feature nationals then as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have 8.
Wow.
All the math here with me, Jeff. We've got 8 total weeks.
Yeah.
Within the ACL Pro Series and the World Championships, the points series for the season, 4 of those will be singles and doubles played to 21. 4 of those will be singles and doubles round limited format.
Got it.
So I would like to drop the reference to nationals and shootouts, but internally that seems to be tough to do. So I refer to it as play to 21 format and round limit format. But
Gotcha.
it's all within 1 point. It's all within 1 point series, so that I believe that'll crown the top singles player and the top doubles team that does the best in both formats.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make it analogous to tennis in a way, right? So when you have your Grand Slams in tennis, you're going to be playing one on grass, one's on clay, one's on hard court. So you get different styles, and so that could equate to a style people that play better in matches to 21, and then you have some people that are kind of experts in your round limited game, and so everyone kind of gets a chance to kind of show off, but yet it's all in the same point system. I like it. I mean, it'll take a little bit of getting used to, but once everyone kind of feels their way through it, I think they'll like it. I think they'll get on board.
Yeah, I think, and it's a lot more attractive for our television partners and our sponsors as well.
Instead of trying to cut it all up for every time.
Yeah, every time we tried to sell the Shootout Series and the Pro Series as independent series out there, both to television and to sponsors, they all got really confused.
Yeah,
and could never grasp it. And so, we saw a big kind of fall off in especially the Shootout last season. And so that was part of it. But in addition to that being kind of part of it, I like it a lot better. So
that's interesting about the Shootout, because I really, and you and I have talked about this several times, Stacey. I mean, I really like the Shootout. I think it's exciting to watch.
Yep.
It's a little bit like the NCAA tournament. There's some wild cards that can pop up, and I love that it all culminates with the championships. That kind of surprises me. But I do agree with, I mean, and we've talked about this on the show a few times, and you and I have talked about this too, is that I do think that the average fan has been confused at times on what am I watching. They know they're watching cornhole. They know they're watching it at a high level. They enjoy watching it, but what does it mean? What is it for? What are they playing for? So maybe this will help clarify that. Is that kind of the goal of it?
Yeah, I hope so. And consolidate some prize pool money as well. So net, while the prize pool may be exactly the same, when you combine them into one series, that prize pool looks bigger to people. Even though it's the same amount of money.
Right.
So, but the way the math works out, the prize pool will be the same or more. Hopefully, we're still out there selling sponsorships, so we'll see how that goes. And really excited for that. The good news is, Jeff, we still get a Shootout format on the women's side with the women's tour that we're doing, because we're also doing a specific women's tour series that will again be a part of these 8 events that are going to be a win and you get into a championship event. 4 of those events will be singles and 4 of those events will be doubles for our ACL Pro women only.
Okay, got it.
And we're actually out there shopping that to a different network right now to potentially get that linear telecast style on a different night.
Okay. Nice little tease there. All right. So since you dropped it in there like a bomb before we started, so what did Bernie and I we do this segment. We do this segment at the end of every show now called On, Off, and In, right? It's on the board, off the board.
It's America's favorite segment, Stacey.
And in the hole. It truly is. It's America's favorite podcast segment. So it's fun, right? It's if anyone watches or listens to Colin Cowherd's podcast, he does where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. So it's funny, right? Because sometimes when we throw our opinions out there, sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. So since you started it that way and came out firing with your 6-shooter,
man,
where were we wrong? Where were we off the board?
Yeah.
Anytime you said Stacey Moore would think this, we were off the board.
But I never. But I don't say that. I don't say. I don't say Stacey would think or would say this. What I say, and I hope this is true. I mean, you can tell me, Stacey. What I say is anything I say on the show is always something I've said to you, whether it's at dinner or after a show, or I mean, I think that's pretty true. I mean, you and I have some great, conversations about everything that are very honest. So I don't think anything that I say on the podcast is something I haven't said to your face. But
no doubt, and I'm not offended by anything that you guys said. I thought it was more of the entertaining shows that you guys have done. And it got me to watch it because I heard y'all were trashing me, so that's why I tuned in.
Well, no. Wasn't part of it. But wasn't part of it about the identification of players? And Jeff, you've mentioned this a lot about making it easier for the average fan to know who's playing, whose bag, what's going on. Being able to follow it better, especially And I think that's what kind of led to it. Our show. We talked about it quite a bit, and if I remember correctly, it was after that show that I received a phone call while you were on the road to Raleigh.
Yeah. Well, I think that. Yeah, I think around that specific segment, I think Bernie said I would refuse to give up the red and black jerseys.
All right. So once again, I just want to make sure we point out that this is Bernie's fault.
I think I meant that a little bit more tongue in cheek with the whole NC State thing, but yeah. So are we getting rid of it then? That painful color scheme? Yeah. Okay. Right again.
But we are open to it. I actually approved doing different colors for this season, but it was kind of too late to logistically pull it off. But as you know, with our Super Bowl jerseys, we've done multiple different colors. We've had the white as the base and a different color on the sleeves to be able to try to identify the teams better. The whole idea behind when we were doing light and dark jerseys and we were doing the black and the white was so that people could easily distinguish between who's on a team and who's not.
Yeah.
And that these people are throwing against each other. Now, we've had a difficult time with our pros kind of understanding that and buying into it. A lot of times they just show up still to the broadcast with only one jersey, which makes it difficult. So we've gotten better about having standardized replacement jerseys for all sizes and starting to enforce. And, hey, if you sold sponsors and you don't show up on the broadcast court with both jerseys, your sponsors are going to lose out.
Yeah.
And so on the pro jersey for the Pro Series, yes, it still will be light and dark for this season to distinguish, and doubles specifically, who's playing against each other in doubles.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to do a much better job of trying to tie in the bag color and try to get some more simplification around some of these designs.
Has it been a hard conversation with the bag manufacturers? I mean, obviously they're trying to sell in a way where they want their bags to pop, if you will, by looking at them. But isn't there a way, if we get away from, say, black and white jerseys only, that you could still have the same sponsors, but kind of work with bag manufacturers and they have a home and away broadcast jersey and broadcast bag? Like, is that a possibility? I mean, I know it's a lot of work and it would be very hard to do. And once again, you're relying on the players to remember all of those things. But has that been a part of the conversation or no?
Yeah, it has been. And I think that we're going to find that teams is going to lead the way here, right? So we have introduced, as you guys know from the draft, home and away jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, love it.
Strongly encouraging, if not forcing, bag manufacturers to mimic those home and away colors on cornhole bags that their sponsored players will be able to throw so that their bags will match their team jersey. And we're releasing team logos to allow our tier 1 licensed manufacturers the opportunity to do ACL Pro Teams logoed cornhole bags. So hopefully we'll see how that goes here this season with teams, and then hopefully we can implement it into the Pro Series, and then hopefully get to the point where we have people adopting this for play in all the Open Series events that we do on the digital courts, and leading into kind of the linear telecast. So I think one of the big things that we have to do with the professionalism of our pro players is to push what we require on the broadcast court down to the streaming courts. And as we grow that fan base, and as more fans come out, especially to these, like we're talking about, these 8 tentpole events, our pro players have to be professional, from start to finish around those events.
Well, all right, that's taken us down a different bullet point that I wanted to talk to you about. So let's just naturally transition into that, because I've talked about this. We could spend a lot of time talking about this on the show with you, but I've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about it. That player identification, Stacy, has got to be one of the biggest points of emphasis, in my opinion, for the sport. You've got to be able to turn on the TV. If you don't know who Jamie, if you let's say Tony Smith right now, right, number one player in the sport. If you can't turn on the TV and easily identify who your number one player in the sport is, you are totally missing the boat. Like when you turn on the TV and you're watching the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the New York Giants, even if you don't know, who's who, you can instantly tell by the colors of the jerseys matched with the graphic on the screen. And that's something that I've just been hollering about. That I think, we it sounds like that you guys are making a point of emphasis. I want to know when I turn on the TV, if Tony Smith is playing against Mark Richards, who's who? And it sounds like you guys are really kind of going down that road as well, working with the bag manufacturers, working with whoever makes the jerseys, to make sure that when we turn on the TV, we know who is playing, because that's really been difficult. We talk about some fans not being able to understand. They understand the game of cornhole, but when they turn it on, some fans, not only do they not know what these players are playing for when they're watching, but they don't know who's who. So I love that this is a point of emphasis on the league's part too, so we can start to identify some of our stars in the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Jeff. We've done a really poor job of reinforcing while the broadcast is going on who is who. So whether it's flashing Jamie Graham's name up there next to him, whether it's permanently there or it's, or you're spitting out something from the side that has his picture and his game stats while that game is going on. So it kind of reinforces, oh, that's Jamie Graham. That's who Jamie Graham is. Yeah. And the more people watch it, then he will become as identifiable as when you turn on the TV and you see Roger Federer playing tennis, that's Roger Federer without having to see his name. Yeah. That's where we eventually want to get to. But still, the large number of the fans that are tuning in, like you said, they have a hard time making that immediate association. And unless you're in that small percentage of an avid cornhole fan, yeah, you probably don't know who Jamie Graham is right now, but you've seen him on TV a couple of times. You may recognize him and be like, oh, I've seen that guy on TV. Yeah. But you have no idea what his name is.
Yep. You need to know right away.
And we have to do a better job of that on our end, and our pro players have to do a better job on their social media and be more professional with how they handle and grow their following in social media as well. It works hand in hand.
Yeah, you mentioned it a couple times, and this is something I had written down. So we obviously know the answer to this, but how much of a point of emphasis has it been for the league just last year and this year, the appearance of a professional player, what they look like, what they sound like, how they're perceived in the public. It sounds like this is, like I remember you guys even made a point of emphasis. I think it was last year, Stacy, maybe 2 years ago, about shoe wear. Just putting some regulations on what you can and cannot wear, because if this is going to be a professional sport like football, like basketball, like baseball, you need to look like a pro. Appearance matters, right?
Yeah. We have, I would say the majority of our ACL pro players want to be paid like other professional athletes.
Yeah.
Yet they're not willing to put in the work that it takes from an appearance standpoint, from a social media standpoint, and everything else to be at that level. And so, if sponsors are not getting the right ROI from ACL pro players, they're not going to continue to sponsor these players. And I think you saw some of that happen with the bag companies this season. You had a lot of our licensees learn that just because someone is a really good cornhole player or has a name within the core cornhole community, they deserve X amount of sponsor dollars, and they quickly realized that didn't translate to a ROI for them. And so, I think across the board, we saw our licensees either stay at the same level or cut back their sponsorship of ACL Pro players. And,
it just all goes together, Stacey. It's all going together.
Don't you?
And the pro players want to blame everyone else but themselves.
But don't you think? I'm actually going to stick up for the players, which is crazy, which I never do. But no, but there are some other things that we have to do better. Like, I wasn't there, I don't know, but I had a few people message me. It's like, hey, we keep being told that we need to be more professional, we need to be acting better, but yet the boards aren't regulation linked, and we're playing for money. And and so that's hard to argue against that. So we have to find a way to do it on our end as well. But I look, I'm with you. I think everyone should be in a uniform, quite frankly. I mean, fishing basically does it. I mean, when you look at other sports that kind of come along with us, when as far as what kind of sports they are, if they're individual, I mean, there's a uniform thing to it, and and I just don't think jeans or cutoff shorts or other types of wear come off as professional. And I know people don't agree with me on that, but it's sometimes it's hard for the people inside the cornhole community to realize if we want to make it bigger, we're going to have to reach out and show other people that we can look and be professional. Because right now we're kind of fitting into their thought of who we are in some ways, and that has to change on everybody's end, mine included.
Yeah, we have consistency at the jersey, but like you said, we haven't mandated. Obviously, we've mandated some things that you cannot wear.
Right.
We haven't wanted to go down the path of mandating, say, everyone should wear either black sweatpants or leggings, or whatever that might be. But in reality, one day we might have to.
And I would think that the bag manufacturers would be all over this, because if I'm sponsoring a player and they're throwing my bags, how hard would it be for me to get some black pants for that player, whether they be sweatpants or what have you. I mean, that's just an extra way for them to market themselves, and it makes the player look better. But I don't know. I think specifically call out what Ultra has done with their swag. When their players are coordinated in Ultra gear, I think they all look really sharp and professional.
It looks so good. It looks so good. I hate to jump in here, but we got to keep moving. But yeah, I mean, all of this matters, though, Stacey. And I love that we're having these conversations and that this is the direction of the league. I mean, it all matters. It starts with the TV broadcast, what we just talked about, player identification. Yeah. And not only player identification, but the player identification and the color of the bags, the color of the jersey matching the graphic on the screen. And I think you bring up a great point with Ultra. If you've got an Ultra player dressed in black with the white Ultra logo, throwing Ultra bags, and the graphic on the TV below has their name in black and white to match everything else, that is only going to help everybody else with player identification and with bag identification. I've mentioned this many times with bag on the podcast. With bag identification, I kind of liken it to NASCAR. Now, I'm a big NASCAR freak, right? But I can tell you, Joey Logano drives Ford. Like, I think we need to get to that point where, Jamie Graham, up until this year, Jamie Graham used to throw fire, and they change from time to time, right? Players change. And we'll change that identification. But that stuff needs to be out there. And then it also needs to coincide with the social media. Like you're saying, these players have to, on their end, and this is something that Bernie's been talking about, players have to be pros, act like a pro, do interview like a pro, do social media like a pro, promote like a pro, promote on social media. All this stuff matters if you want to make money. So I love that we're having conversations about this.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on what Bernie said when he took up for the pros, right? And what pros would say.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I've heard it, and I'm just throwing it out there. But I mean, it's a legitimate argument.
I'm saying one thing does not make an excuse for another, right?
Agreed.
So it's not like
Agreed.
if the boards are at the wrong distance, that's on us. We screwed up. We got to own it. That doesn't
Right.
mean that you're allowed to look like a bum on the broadcast court.
Agreed. Agreed.
So one does not excuse the other. We have to be accountable for our mistakes and our fault. We have to continue to do better, like Jeff is saying, specifically on the broadcast.
Yeah.
We've done a very poor job over the last 5 years doing exactly what Jeff is saying. I've got to take responsibility for that. I got to look in the mirror myself and get it fixed.
Yeah.
You got to fix it.
Yeah.
Which is also great. Which is also great, Stacey, and this is something that we've also mentioned many times, is that we still have to take a step back. And again, along with what you're saying, Stacey, I'm not trying to make excuses, but the sport is really new still, right? But that is not an excuse, and I love that you are still able to pivot, just like NASCAR. You know who didn't pivot? Baseball didn't pivot, and look what happened. It killed them, right? And I say this all the time. I know for people who are listening, they're like, I get it. But NASCAR pivots all the time. You are pivoting. You are not just so rigid that you're not going to change something. So the fact that you've noticed this, you know that it needs to be improved, and you're going to make it better, is great. I mean, it's such a new sport. Okay.
Yeah, and the equipment challenges that we face relative to other sports is completely different, right?
Yep.
Think about there's what? 4 different brands of cars that participate in NASCAR, right? And so if you equate a NASCAR brand to a cornhole bag licensee, we've got 60 of them.
Yeah, a ton.
That want to make multiple series and do multiple colors and do crazy things and rip off people's trademarks and do all kinds of crap that we're constantly battling.
Part of the growing pains, right? Part of the growing pains.
And we could shut it down and say,
this is it.
Oh, there's only going to be 4 going forward. That's not what I want to do. I've got no interest in doing that whatsoever, because I love the creativity, the energy, the competitiveness, and the way that we've evolved our bag licensing program has led to some great innovations for our sport. So I don't want to stifle the entrepreneurism that's going on in the bag world. I want to continue to encourage it and embrace it.
But at the same time, they have to realize at some point it's not good for the sport.
At some level,
Yeah.
At some level, it's not good for the sport, and it may
causes confusion.
Causes too much confusion.
Yep.
And I'm constantly evaluating and trying to balance those things that can make life difficult, right?
Confusion in the market is bad, and I've talked about this as well. I mean, going back to my pharmaceutical sales days,
right?
I mean, there were a million antidepressants out there. We didn't talk about all of them. We talked about ours and about 3 others, because the easier we could make it on doctors, the easier we could make it on nurses, the easier we could make it on patients, to simplify the market was better for us. And yes, market confusion. If there's too many bags, I'm with you, Stacey. You don't want to stunt entrepreneurism, because at your heart, I know that's what you are. But too many is not. Market confusion is not good. Not good for anybody. All right, quickly, just a few things, right, that I just want to throw at you. We don't have to spend a ton of time on these, but just a few things out there. Drinking. I hear this from my friends all the time, right? Would there ever be a day where drinking beer is not allowed in cornhole? Like, do you guys behind the scenes, do you and Trey, or you, Trey, and Josh, and Kat and Fred, I mean, whoever, Bernie, I mean, do you guys ever talk about this at all? Because I with my friends, and my family, I can't tell if people really like it or if they feel like it's odd that you can drink while you're playing the sport. But I get that question probably more than anything.
Well, I think that when you're comparing yourself against the NFL, the NBA, UFC, and you want to be that type of sport and create that type of valuation for the sport, so that not only do a handful of people become millionaires, but a ton of people become millionaires. That might have to happen one day. Golf had to evolve, right? People used to be able to drink and smoke on the golf course.
Hey, broadcasters used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Broadcasters used to
Seriously.
do it.
Summerall was hammered doing
Oh
football
God, you'd
games.
walk into a press box, it'd be filled with beer and liquor and smokes all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, potentially, alcohol gets cut out. I believe we are doing some level of drug testing this year. That was a hot topic within the ACL Pro Committee,
Yeah.
and I believe that a policy got approved, and I know that we got quotes to implement said policy. Y'all may know, I don't know if that's been publicly announced yet or not in terms of what that outcome has been, and I'm not 100% sure that we have finalized that.
Yeah, that's a tough one to go down.
If we haven't finalized drug testing, we are extremely close.
Hey, it's a tricky one. Again, like every other
tricky.
sport. I mean, but necessary. Every sport has had to do it, right? Look at baseball. I mean, this goes back. I mean, the three of us are old enough to remember greenies back in the 70s and 80s. Rampant.
But the thing is,
baseball.
one of the problems in our sport is I think Adderall, we can go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, is a big one. I think it's tough when you say you can't do this when a doctor says you can.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yes, that's tough. Adderall is definitely that's the tricky part. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know how that one gets handled. I mean, obviously, if you get drug tested, you don't have a prescription for it. Well, you're not using it properly. You're using it as a stepping stone. I can tell you, as people that actually need it, their attention span. If you saw them play without it, they'd be all over the place, right? They wouldn't. You'd know who they were. That's so tough. And I
think you hit the nail on the head, though, Bernie. I think you hit it on the head. You have to do it, and you have to do it randomly. And for those who are caught taking it without a prescription, then you're gonna get in trouble. And you know what? It's no different. It's no different. They do it in college.
Sure, they do.
All these college kids, so many of them have prescriptions, but some of them don't. And if you don't, you get suspended. So I mean, I don't think it's different than any other sport.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's how they do it at the college level, Jeff. They just randomly test people for Adderall, and if
I don't know if it's specifically Adderall, but they do drug testing. Yeah,
but they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if Adderall was specific on.
I don't know. I don't know either.
College. I don't because
on the testing list, but they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't think it's on any sports testing list.
Not yet.
And
it seems to be our sport might be the we might be leading the way on that one. Yeah, because it's
I can make a couple of calls though, Stacy. I can figure out because I got a couple coaches I could call where I could just off the record ask them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm
sure they would tell me whether or not that's included.
We looked it up online.
I mean, yeah, so I'm not as well versed on it as Trey and the pro committee that were coming up with that policy. So I didn't do my own personal in-depth research on it, and my feelings about Adderall are definitely mixed on whether it's legit performance enhancing or not. Does it cause long-term harm like steroids do to your body?
But with prescriptions, it's such a tough one, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but like with prescriptions, it's also a matter of privacy, right?
Yes.
If you go through and like all of a sudden, well, nothing says you're allowed to know what my doctor's telling me I need to take.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it goes.
Adderall,
it's scary. That is scary. That's a scary road.
So it's so prescribed that makes it really difficult. Just a couple minutes left. Again, we could do a whole podcast on any one of these.
Well, yeah. Welcome to Borderline. We could talk about one subject for 1 week straight.
Yeah, and now we're quickly going to go from drugs to gambling. So I mean, really, this is
how they go hand in hand, really.
But real quick, Stacy, you guys have made such incredible strides in gambling, right? So much fun. I mean, I love gambling a little bit on football and basketball. And now in cornhole, I obviously have a lot of friends who will throw some money on different players, especially with the shootout series with DraftKings. Where are we with gambling? How much does that want to expand? How much of that is a point of emphasis? Do you still foresee the day where you can walk up to a sports book in Vegas and lay down some money on Matt Guy? Like where are your thoughts in the direction on the future gambling with cornhole?
Yeah, we're still pushing hard. I believe we're legal in every state that has approved sports betting except for one or two. So we've done a really good job on that front. We're talking with various partners to obviously expand the offering of not only the odds that DraftKings puts out, but trying to create new markets, trying to do in play. Right, in play is a very popular thing, whether you're
Yeah.
betting on golf or football. Like, I personally love betting on golfers live during a golf match and sitting there with a beer, watching TV, betting whether or not so and so is going to birdie that hole or beat whoever they're playing against just for that one hole.
So is that still a goal for the league, Stacy? And I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
We only got like 2 minutes left. I was thinking we had. I forgot. We just did ACL live where we had an hour, and I forgot we've only got 50 minutes on this thing. So we only have a couple minutes left. But is that where you see the future though? So you want this to be like, and what's the timeline? Do you think in the next year or two? Like, when will that day come where I can sit down on a sports book and say and bet $3 that Matt Guy is going to hit a 4-bagger?
Oh man, it's tough to predict. I would love to say it's going to be within the next 3 years.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Would
it be great to sit in a sports book and be watching Jamie Graham, be watching Tony Smith, Mark Richards, Matt Guy, and be able to bet, hey, I think he's going to win, or I think he's going to hit a 4-bagger. That'd be so much fun to just sit there and bet on it. Yeah,
and we were so close last year to having multiple outlets beyond DraftKings in terms of like the FanDuels and Caesars and MGM offering odds through a data partner, and that's really kind of the key. Is there's a middleman there that we've got to do a deal with, and the more noise that we can create for our fans to demand, hey, MGM, we want you to carry cornhole odds, right? Or Caesars, and then they're calling up their data provider and saying, hey, you got cornhole? And so I did get an email last week that one of the data providers I've been talking to for 2 years has finally said, man, we were getting a lot of calls from different outlets about cornhole now. So awesome. Hopefully that's a positive sign, and hopefully we get some other people to join DraftKings here in 2024.
Well, I would try and help support you, but I live in South Carolina, and there's South Carolina will probably be one of the last.
Yeah.
I live in the wrong state for gambling on cornhole. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
or anything for that matter. Well, hey, Stacy, we got to run, but I appreciate you so much and everything that you do for me personally, and love being able to call you a friend and
love you, man.
Just pick up the phone and talk anytime. And seriously, anytime. I mean, I know we joke, but it's your podcast. Whenever you want to come on, you just let us know.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys and invite me back often. I'd be glad to share more of my thoughts.
Hey,
with
we could do it. We could do it monthly. It could be the State of the Union every month. You could come out and say
every month.
Yeah, come on, man. 15 minutes.
Woo, a lot of pressure.
How about quarterly?
We could do quarterly. We've basically been doing quarterly. I feel
that's actually a great idea. I like
it.
That.
It's a great idea. Way to go, Bernie.
All right, Stacey. Hey, it's been a great ride. Thank you, brother, for everything, and thanks for coming on the show and fielding so many questions. Great job.
Thank you, guys, and I appreciate everyone out there supporting the ACL.
All right, we'll see you again soon.
See you, bud.
All right, Stacey Moore, commissioner of the ACL. All right, bud. Seriously, I totally forgot. On ACL Live, we get the full hour. Here,
50 minutes.
50 minutes. So we literally have 1 minute left. But great stuff. Awesome to have him on.
Could really talk.
I talk about this. I mean, one of the things I love about the sport most, for those of you who listen to the show, is just the exposure and the access I have to all the players, and that is no different than my access to Stacy. To be able to talk to him, to be able to talk to a commissioner of a league.
Yeah, can you imagine?
About basically anything you want is really great.
Yeah, very different. So, are we doing on, off, and in, or is it we just don't have enough time?
No, we don't have time.
Bummer.
We don't have time. But you know what my on was going to be, and
What?
maybe my in sliding mitts. Like what are sliding mitts? Sliding mitts are
Oh,
stupid. Like, I've been
baseball.
watching baseball.
Just to save fingers. Yeah, it's
I
ridiculous.
know, I get it, but it's like, what do NFL players think when they watch baseball players wearing a stupid sliding mitt?
What do the old
dude.
baseball players think? I mean, it's crazy.
That was part of mine, but we don't have time.
Right, am I in the hole? North Carolina will always choke in football season. Did it again.
Sorry, you and I were texting. I feel bad. All right, dude, we got to go. Have a good week. I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you guys.